Good evening and welcome to the Pioneer Sideline. I'm your host, Blaine King. Tonight on the Sideline, the Steelers are without Ben Roethlisberger for the next few weeks. Find out if they were able to defeat the New England Patriots with Landry Jones under center. Also, the World Series is set. Find out which teams will be looking for their first title for the first time since the first half of the 20th century. And speaking of titles, we are 2 weeks away from conference tournament play in the River States Conference. We will find out where our Pioneer sports teams are stacking up against for the tournament. And we will start first with the men's soccer team. The men's soccer team had a tough challenge this past weekend. Not only did they have to play on the road where they have a record of 1-4-1, but they had to take on two of the best teams not only in the River States Conference, but in the NAIA. Megan Masiosi has the story on what happened on the pitch. Megan?
The men's soccer team had a heartbreaking game Thursday night against River State Conference rivals West Virginia Tech University, where they lost 2-1 in the final minutes of the game. Point Park got the first goal in the final minute of the first half from Reji Mukammadov to give them the lead. However, in the second half, West Virginia Tech brought the heat, outshooting the Pioneers 15-1, and eventually getting their first goal in the 78th minute. As overtime inched closer, the Pioneers were doing everything they could to contain the Golden Bears, but it wasn't enough. In the 89th minute, the Golden Bears scored the game winner off of a corner kick. This now puts the Pioneers at 2 wins and 4 losses in River State Conference play. The Pioneers look to improve their conference record with a road game against Rio Grande. As hard as the Pioneers played, it just wasn't enough. Rio Grande is ranked number 3 in the nation, so this was a tall task for the Pioneers. The Pioneers ended up losing 5-0, but that's not the worst for them. The Pioneers are now 7th in the River States Conference and need serious help from other teams to make it into the playoffs. Point Park need Brescia and Asbury University to lose their last conference games, and the Pioneers need to beat Carlisle University. The Pioneers will play their final home game Wednesday night against Washington Adventist University.
All right. So, Megan, the men were obviously going up against tough competition, but was their fate sealed when they had to go on the road to play Rio and West Virginia Tech?
I think it definitely was, because the team is 1-4 on the road, so they weren't very strong on the road to begin with, and they're playing 2 nationally ranked teams, so they were doomed from the start.
Awesome. And also, if this team somehow do make the River States Conference tournament, will this team, do they have the ability to make a deep run, or are they going to just be one and done?
Like you said, it's kind of a long shot if they do make it, but I have a feeling they're going to be one and done. The River State Conference is very tough this year.
Yes. All right. Thanks, Megan. Now we are going to flip the script and check on the women's soccer team, who has been having a stellar October. Sarah Maculin is here with me to discuss what is going on with the team.
After getting off to a rough start, the Point Park women's soccer team has bounced back in the past few weeks. The Pioneers have won 4 of their last 6 games in the month of October and are 5-2 in River States Conference play. Last Thursday, the Pioneers traveled to Beckley, West Virginia to take on West Virginia Tech in a rematch of last season's conference tournament final. The game got off to a slow start, and the Pioneers and the Golden Bears remained scoreless heading into halftime. Point Park would dominate the second half, however, finding the net 4 times for a 4-2 victory. The Pioneers then traveled to Ohio to face another River States Conference opponent in Rio Grande. The Pioneer defense was the deciding factor in this game, as they did not allow the Red Storm a single shot on goal all game. An unassisted goal by freshman Nikki Polans secured the 1-0 victory. The win moved Point Park to second place in the River States Conference with an overall record of 6-7-2. The Pioneers will take on Washington Adventist in a non-conference matchup tomorrow at Highmark Stadium at 4 p.m. The Pioneers will then return to Highmark Stadium on Saturday to face crosstown rival Carlisle University at 5 p.m. for senior day and their final game of the season.
All right, so Sarah, this team is 4-2 in the month of October, and nothing is looking past. That cannot be looked past. Out of the offense and the defense, who deserve more credit?
I mean, as much as I want to give credit to the offense because they have been a huge factor in several of their October wins, I have to look at the defense. I mean, in their 4 wins in the month of October, 3 of the 4 have been shutouts. 5-0, 3-0, 2-0. So you have to give credit to Point Park goalkeeper Rebecca Cohen and that defense.
All right, and this team is hot at the right time. Do you see them slowing down once conference tournament time come around, or are they just going to keep playing lights out as they've been in this month of October?
I mean, they're going to be facing some tough opponents, but I think they're just going to keep up the heat. I mean, they got off to a rough start earlier in the season. We were all a little bit worried about them, didn't think they were going to turn it around, but as soon as River State's conference play hit, they won those games that mattered, and right now they just keep getting higher in the standings. They're in second place. They're hoping for that bye in the playoffs, and I just don't think their hot streak's going to end.
All right, thanks, Sarah. Coming up after the break, find out if the volleyball team continued their River State Conference dominance this weekend. And we have a new segment to introduce you to. Find out what it is when we get back.
We are a social people. We share our inspiration, wisdom, creations, and memories. We share what makes us laugh and what angers us. Built on the notion of a free flow of ideas, our country thrives on the freedom of speech. Without it, who would watch over our governing powers? And how would we share our history to make a difference for the future? It's this freedom to share that gives us a reason to listen.
All right, guys, any questions on scripts? We good to go?
Yep, right. Should be good.
All right, great. All right, yeah, camera 3 set up right there. Camera 2. All right. Use the ball when you're moving this around, but set up for the 2 shot, just right there. Weather, how we doing?
It gon' rain.
Perfect.
Welcome back to Daybreak. I'm Sarah Mackin with your
The real host, Adrian Billon, was seen snuggling up.
All right, prompter. We got everything in. We're good to go? Key Pro, everything loaded. We're good to go? All right. Tyler, any questions?
That shot looks fine.
3, 2, 1. Bring up camera 2. Open mics. Cue talent.
Good morning and welcome to Daybreak. I'm Blaine King.
Thanks for tuning in. I'm Aubrey Henkin.
And I'm Aaron Myler.
And this is Entertainment on Point.
Beyonce has surprised us again.
Kanye West just tweeted,
"This was a huge weekend at the box office.
A fan favorite TV show just got canceled.
Guess what band is coming to the city?" And the award went to...
But did you see her engagement ring?
Her outfit was awful.
I would fire her stylist.
Tune in for all of your Hollywood gossip and pop culture news.
Entertainment on Point.
Get to the point of pop culture.
Yeah!
Welcome back. The women's volleyball team, since the start of September, has had an overall record of 13-4, including a 10-1 River State's conference record. They look to continue their dominance with two key games this weekend. Mike Turk, who had the call on the game, is here to discuss what happened. Mike?
The chant of PPU, PPU, PPU is the only thing you could hear in St. Joseph's Hall Gymnasium Saturday afternoon as the Pioneers went to Carlow University for a quad match hosted by the Celtics. The day started off with the Pioneers battling conference opponent Brescia University. Behind Ashley Taylor's 9 kills, Nikki Ann Cortano's 6 blocks, and Emily Meng's 27 assists, the Pioneers swept the Bearcats in 3 sets by the scores of 25-17, 25-15, and 25-23. But the big match of the day was the one that followed. Point Park and IU Southeast, the top 2 teams in the conference, both had 1 conference loss on their records. Point Park had lost about a month ago at Rio Grande, and IU Southeast was coming off a fresh loss at home to Asbury. The gym was packed full of Pioneer students who had come out to root on the ladies in what was sure to be the most important match of the season thus far. A lot was on the line for both teams in this match because whichever team wins the conference in the regular season is guaranteed a spot in the NAIA National Tournament. In the first set, a little extra volleyball had to be played, with the score being knotted up at 24. But the Pioneers remained calm and finished set 1 with a victory on an Ashley Taylor kill to win 26-24. Set number 2 remained close the entire way until IU Southeast pulled away late with a 4-1 run and tied up the match at 1 set apiece, with a 25-22 victory in that one. In a critical third set with the Pioneers up 24-20, Kirsten Burks and Ashley Taylor put up a wall against the IU Southeast outside hitter to win 25-20. Set 4, the Pioneers got out to a big lead of 18-10, but IU Southeast put up a fight to make it 24-19. But that would be as close as they would get, as the Pioneers would finish them off with a Shiloh Simonson outside attack. 25-19, Point Park wins the match 3-1. Pioneers have now won 12 of their last 13 matches to advance their lead in the River States Conference to 2.5 games, with 3 more conference games to go. They play tonight at 7 at West Virginia Tech. The Pioneers are now 16-13 overall and 12-1 in conference play.
Mike, 15-4 over a 2-month span is something this team, in my time here, has never experienced. How big is it not only that they won those amount of games, but the fashion they did it in, like winning getting games 3-0 or 3-1?
Well, Blaine, when they're out there on the court, they're having fun with this sport. And it's just like the kids out on the sandlot from the movie. They just play it because they love it so much. Winning's just an added incentive. Every game they go out there, if they hit a ball out of bounds, miss a block, they shake it off. They forget about the previous play. They go out there and make an even bigger play on the next ball.
All right, and if this team is going to make it, this team looks like they're going to make it to the NAIA National Tournament. What will they have to do to get that first ever tournament win?
They just have to keep doing what they're doing. They have a ton of experience on that team. It all begins with the senior leadership of Emily Magnusetter, Nikki Incortano in the middle, Kirsten Burks in the middle, Shiloh Simonson on the outside. They just need to keep doing what they're doing. Attack hard and put up a wall in the front of the net and dig those balls if it gets past your blockers up front.
All right, thanks, Mike. Now it's time to introduce you to a new segment our co-producer Tyler Cahill came up with. This segment is an NFL Pick'em segment where we will pick a select few matchups. Each person will have a few seconds to state why they think a certain team will win, and we will keep a tally of all the picks and see who has the most accurate pick selection. And our first 2 opponents, per se, that's going to be on it, is going to be Mr. Rob Gomez and Miss Megan Masiosi. All right, guys, are you guys ready to get this underway?
Yep, yeah, I'm ready.
All right, the first game that we're going to discuss is the Redskins at Bengals. Who do you have?
Good.
And this game is in London, so.
I got the Bengals, actually. You know, both these teams are really inconsistent, but one person that really seems to be always consistent is A.J. Green.
Yes.
I mean, this guy has
Big game last week.
775 yards. He has more yards than both Crowder and Deshaun Jackson of the Redskins. So I'm picking them 24-20.
I'm also picking the Bengals, but that's because corner Josh Norman is out for the Redskins, and I think A.J. Green, like you said, I think he's just going to tear apart the Redskins.
Yeah, big day for A.J. Green last week against the Browns. All right, next game we're going to have on our list, the 3-1 Cardinals and the 1-5 Panthers. This is a rematch of last year's NFC Championship game.
Yeah, I have the Cardinals because after Sunday's game is a very defensive battle with Seattle ending up in a tie. I think that the Panthers really don't have anything to stop Carson Palmer and Larry Fitzgerald. So in the no-fly zone, I think they're going to eat Cam Newton alive.
Yeah, I agree. I think I'm taking the Cardinals in this one too. I mean, the defense, their defense is solid, less than 300 yards. They're averaging on the opposite side. The Panthers are giving up over 300, almost 400 yards of defense. Even though they got a good offense coming off a bye, I just don't think they have enough on defense to stop their offense.
All right, moving down the list, the 4-2 Kansas City Chiefs against the Indianapolis Colts. They're 3-4, coming off a big win against Tennessee.
I got the Chiefs, actually. As much as I want to go with the Colts, you know, being a Raider, you want the rival to go down. But you know, Spencer Ware, this guy is just being really dominant. Without Jamal Charles, he's averaging 5.2 yards, possible 1,000 yards rusher. And the Colts just a shaky team. I'm taking the Chiefs, 23-17.
Megan.
I also have the Chiefs, but that's because I just think Andrew Luck's offensive line is just really bad.
Yes.
And I mean, he's been on the ground so much already this season. It was a tough pick because I don't think either team's really wowed me this year, but I think the Chiefs need this.
Chiefs are consistent. That's
they're
what
very
it is.
consistent.
They're under Andy Reid. They know how to get the job done.
All right. So far, you're all on the same bandwagon. So next, the 6-1 Patriots at the 4-3 Buffalo Bills. Do Rex Ryan and the Bills do the upset again?
No. Last game, Tom Brady wasn't in. So that's really the big story for there. Tom Brady wasn't in. And I think he's starting to click with Edelman and Gronk now. Blunt's running well. Yeah, the Bills are going to lose this one.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I just basically put on my list, Tom Brady. I mean, last time they had Jacoby Brissett. It's, you know, Tom Brady's just going to be the deciding factor in this one.
Yeah, and the Bills coming off a tough road loss against the Miami Dolphins last week when they had the lead, and Miami was just able to come back and
Miami's actually been playing the last couple of good games.
They
lately.
really have. All right, next, the 4-2 Packers against the 4-3 Falcons. Falcons were one of the best teams in the league. Asking 3 weeks ago, everybody had them Super Bowl going, actually championship contenders. Now they fall off the past 2 games. Granted, it was against the Seahawks and the Chargers, but so who's going to win this one? Aaron Rodgers, or is it going to be Matt Ryan?
I have Matt Ryan because I think he's having a great season so far this year. So I'm picking the Falcons. They're going back home. They do decent at home so far this year, so I'm going with the Falcons.
I got Matty Ice too, believe it or not.
Wow.
I swear I have it written down all right here. Matty Ice, you know, their offense is just really explosive.
Right.
You know, they got Julio Jones, Devontae Freeman, who hasn't been all of it, but just I don't think the Packers wide receivers has just been enough to give Aaron Rodgers a chance. I mean, these guys are just being covered like white on rice, you know, and it's just, you know, you need to get open. You need to get open for your quarterback.
All right. Final game, the Sunday Night Football matchup. Be careful who you pick. My Philadelphia Eagles, 4-2 against the 5-1 Cowboys.
This is a really tough game for me to pick, but I'm going to go with the Eagles because it's going to be a rookie game, and I don't know. There's something about Carson Wentz. I'm going to go with the Eagles.
You know, I'm actually going with the Dallas Cowboys.
And this is where we part ways at.
This is where we part. I'm going with the Cowboys. You know, they have such the number one rushing game in the league. 102 yards a game is what Philadelphia gives up rushing yards alone. Cowboys have 160 yards average throughout the season. They're just, but that O-line with Ezekiel Elliott and Dak Prescott's doing a great job. I'm predicting Cowboys close game, 26-24.
But the Eagles are coming off a big win over the Minnesota Vikings. So
and Dez will be in the lineup too for the Cowboys, so I can understand. I see both points. Obviously, I'm going to stay neutral, but everybody knows who I'm going to choose.
We kind of know who you're
It's a big week in Philadelphia. All right, thank you both for joining me for the debut of this segment. And when we return from break, it was Landry Jones under center for the Steelers. Find out how they fared against the New England Patriots. And the college football standings were shaken up. Find out how when we return.
Here on the Pioneer Sideline, we talk a lot about sports in the studio, but it's beforehand when the conversation is actually interesting.
I hope I have enough powder on. I don't want to be too shiny on camera.
No, Trevor, I think it looks good every week you pull it off.
Ah, thanks, Phil. Man, your hair looks great tonight, by the way.
You sure? Yeah, I mean, I got a new haircut, but it looks alright.
Hey, guys. Does this make me look fat?
No,
you look great.
You look good. Yeah, Kyle.
Thanks. I was really...
Sports! Yeah!
Ever wanted to be behind the mic and have the world listening to your show on campus? Well, it's just as simple as joining WPPJ, Point Park's student-run radio station, located on the second floor of Lawrence Hall, right next to the dining services. Listeners can tune in using Point Park's website or through the TuneIn app by searching WPPJ. WPPJ welcomes any new DJs that want to get involved, so be heard. Do you have what it takes?
Well, no one showed up to the show tonight. Follow my lead. In 3, 2, take 2, open mics, cue talent. Good evening and welcome to UView News. I'm Josh Krupp. We begin with breaking news out of West Penn Hall. Ready, 3, take lower third. Traffic is backed up in the West Penn elevator line after elevator 1 broke down on the 7th floor. Lose lower third. Maintenance advises students to take the stairs to avoid delays. Ready, 2, take 2. In other news, no, you know what? I didn't sign up for this. We need crew. Join UView. Take alien hand transition.
The injury bug has been flying around the Steelers' locker room all season, and it took a big bite when Ben Roethlisberger had to get knee surgery to repair a torn meniscus in his left knee. This means Landry Jones is now under center for the Steelers for the next few weeks. Jess Paterchek has the story on that.
Thanks, Blaine. Pittsburgh sports have not been playing up to par recently. Starting on the gridiron at Heinz Field, this past Sunday, Landry Jones entered his third start at quarterback with Steelers against Tom Brady and the New England Patriots. Former Steelers running back LeGarrette Blount completely crushed the Steel Curtain, rushing 127 yards on 24 carries. Linebacker Jarvis Jones said, quote, "When they're getting 6 to 7 yards a pop, they are dictating the tempo, and as a defense, you want to make a team one-dimensional, and we didn't do that tonight," end quote. With the combination of Ron Gronkowski getting multiple 36, 37-yard receptions that result directly in touchdowns, and LeGarrette Blount rushing for multiple touchdowns, that completely shuts down a once explosive defense. The Steelers were at a 7-point deficit for the majority of the game. That is until the fourth quarter, where the final score was Patriots 27 and Steelers 16. Now they're closing in on a bye week, which will hopefully give some of their key players time to rest and heal from injury. Next up, they face the Ravens in Baltimore. We'll see what happens. On the ice, the Penguins haven't been doing well either. They lost against former Penguin James Neal and the Nashville Predators, 5-1 this past Saturday at Bridgestone Arena. In the first period, Scott Wilson scored the lone goal for the Penguins unassisted with 52 seconds into the first period. Unfortunately, the Predators had an instantaneous response to tie up the game. From there, it was all downhill. The Predators had a variety of goal scorers in this matchup, which is really what separates you from low-standing teams. PK Subban was the first shot that was redirected by Victor Arvidsson, and the Penguins are suffering from injuries and scratches, but that's no excuse for getting humiliated on the road like they did. Tonight, they look to redeem themselves against the Florida Panthers at PPG Paints Arena. We'll see if the injuries continue to hinder them in games ahead.
Until Big Ben gets back, who or what needs to step up for the Steelers so they can continue to be competitive?
Well, you know, Blaine, it's every facet of that every side of the ball there, that all need to step up. Offensive line isn't doing well at all. That's why Landry Jones is getting so much pressure. But I think, honestly, every player looks to the quarterback for that lead and that sense of direction. So while he is in the starting position, while he remains there, he really needs to step up his role.
All right, and Sidney Crosby returned to practice yesterday, and he is slated to play tonight. How much of a spark is it for the Pens, who are having injury problems of their own, to have their captain and leader back?
Absolutely. Having their captain back is going to be a huge, hype value there. There's going to be so much more energy there. I mean, obviously you want a team to not focus totally on their captain, but at that same point, you got to be able to step up. So having Sidney Crosby back will definitely give them some momentum.
All right, thanks, Jess. Trevor Sheets is now joining me at the desk to discuss some major sports topics that are happening around our nation. Thanks for joining me today, Trevor.
Oh, of course, glad to be here.
All right, let's start with the World Series. It's the Cleveland Indians and the Cleveland Indians, and the Chicago Cubs. Shocker to say that one.
Yeah.
So how big of it is it for both these franchises to be in the World Series, especially for the first time in 70 years for both teams?
Well, it's weird for me to say, but Cleveland is the center of the sports universe tonight. Ooh. We'll get into the second reason why in a little bit, but I think it's going to be a great matchup between two good teams. I have to give the edge to the Cubs on paper because of their rotation.
Yes.
They actually have more than one starting pitcher who isn't injured in some form or fashion. Basically, all Cleveland has is Corey Kluber. Trevor Bauer, we're not sure what's going on with that pinky. I don't know if he's going to be able to start or not. And Andrew Miller can only do so much coming out of the bullpen.
Yes.
But I think Cleveland. I like Cleveland 4 games to 2 in 6 games overall, just because they have that magic with them this year. There's always a team in the postseason that kind of goes on this journey, and this year is Cleveland. Somehow, with all the injuries, especially that rotation, they're still doing well. They beat Toronto, and that was a team that offensively you thought was just going to dominate, and they did manage to beat them pretty easily. So I like Cleveland, but it's Chicago with Kyle Schwarber DHing is going to be big for them. Another big bat in their lineup, which means someone else is coming off the bench, which is just another big factor.
Yeah, it's funny because you mentioned about Cleveland, how they have that factor about them. They kind of remind me of the Kansas City Royals 2 years ago when they made their first run at the World Series against the San Francisco Giants, and they lost in Game 7. That's what they kind of remind me of, that deep bullpen, just playing small ball. Now, you mentioned Cleveland is the center of the sports universe right now as they are dropping the banner for basketball. with the Quicken Loans Arena for the Cavaliers, who will be debuting tonight against the New York Knickerbockers, the Knicks.
Yeah, like I said, Cleveland's raising their banner, first championship in any of our lifetimes, some of our parents' lifetimes as well. And it's going to be insane in Cleveland. Quicken Loans Arena is about 10 feet away from Progressive Field where the Indians play, so it's just going to be madness in that area. Cleveland is stacked as they always are, going to be probably the best in the East again, or one of the top teams. I am interested to see the new look Knicks this year with Derrick Rose at point guard.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. Cavaliers going to be looking to actually to keep up that title run for Cleveland this year as well. Now, a big upset in college football this past weekend. The Penn State Nittany Lions upset the number three overall team in the nation of the Ohio State Buckeyes. How big of an upset was that for Penn State?
For Penn State, it was huge. For Ohio State, it was a setback, but something they can recover from. Penn State is a team that has been decent this year, but hasn't had that marquee win. They got destroyed by Michigan when they played them. Their other bigger games, so to speak, and I mean, I'm a little biased with it, but that matchup with Pitt, especially now that Pitt is coming into their game this week 5-2, that's looking better and better, and Penn State lost to them. So they needed that matchup with Ohio State, that victory at Happy Valley, which they always play a lot better at Happy Valley than they are in Columbus. It's huge for them. Ohio State, like I said, it's a setback. They still have the big matchup at the end of the season, though, with Michigan. That could end up determining who really is going to be the front guy for the Big Ten, unless Nebraska decides to continue with their undefeated season. But it was a big deal, a lot more for Penn State than for Ohio State, though.
Yes, it was. Penn State going with a whiteout. Big victory for James Franklin and that team. And finally, we had a tie in the NFL, 6-6 tie, one of the most. Yeah. It was one of competitive, boring, you name it, so it's going 50-50 each way. 6-6 tie against the Seattle Seahawks and Arizona Cardinals. Kickers missing field goals, chip shot field goals. Do you believe that the NFL needs to eliminate a tie rule and just continue to play overtimes, kind of like they do in the playoffs? Or do you think that it's kind of good that they just have one quarter and that's it?
I think they have to have it like that. Mostly because we have enough issues with injuries in the NFL as it is, just playing 16 games. If they decide, hey, or even like a college football setup where they have it just set up to 25 back and forth, I could see that working, but they have to have an end goal. Like it can't go 17 overtimes or something ridiculous like that. They need a time to be able to finish because, like I said, the injury risk is just too great to all these athletes. Granted, fans aren't happy that their team got a tie. That could end up playing a factor, especially with the NFC West, to see who ends up finishing top in that division. But it's necessary to have that tie set up.
All right. Thanks again for joining me, Trevor. Now, the World Series is set. In our case of the week, we'll find out what our predictions are when we get back.
Did you know that Point Park has a cheerleading squad?
Don't stop. Don't get it confused.
Not only do our cheerleaders represent Point Park at regional and national competitions, but they also promote spirit and awareness of every sports team on campus. Come to any men's or women's varsity basketball game at home to watch the cheerleaders perform at halftime and cheer from the sidelines from the first jump ball to the final buzzer. Sports not your thing? You can catch the cheer team lead the crowd at the fall and spring pep rallies as well, or at several competitions around Pittsburgh each year. So what are you waiting for? Show the Point Park cheerleaders the support they show you.
Every human being has a purpose, has a dream to have their voices heard, no matter where they come from, no matter where they go. As an American, it is their right to have freedom of speech. I have a dream that one day this message will speak louder than words, that even the quietest voice will not go unnoticed. That is my dream. What is yours? For more information, visit www.freedomofspeechpsa.org.
So it's that time of the show for our cases of the week. This week, the topics are simple. Who will win the World Series and how many games? And who will be the MVP? Joining me today will be Rob Gomez, Mike Turk, and Sarah Maculin. All right, let's just get started right away. Who wants to start first?
Ladies first.
All right, I'll go first. I think this game's going to go 7. I think these teams are very competitive and both are coming off, both have momentum. I think it's just going to be back and forth. I have Cleveland in 7.
Ooh.
Would you like my MVP as well?
Yes.
Corey Kluber.
Kluber, all right.
Yeah, I'm going to be really surprised if this series goes less than 6 games. If someone comes out of here with a 4-1, I'll be very surprised. As a baseball fan, I'm so excited for this World Series. Pretty good pitching matchup, a lot of young talent on the field for both teams. But I'm going to go with Cleveland in 7 also, with my MVP, the experience, Mr. Mike Napoli.
Ooh. I actually really like the Mike Napoli. If someone is going to,
he has 2 World Series
if Cleveland is winning, if Cleveland wins, it's going to be Mike Napoli. But I agree. You know, this series is not going less than 6. However, I got the Cubs. Cubs in 6. My MVP is going to be John Lester, same guy that really broke the curse for Boston. It's going to be the same guy that breaks it in Chicago. I mean, but yeah, I like the Mike Napoli pick.
You know who else broke the curse in Boston was a guy named Terry Francona. 8-0 in World Series with the Boston Red Sox. Really turned the city of Boston around for baseball. And he's doing the same in Cleveland right now.
Who was the GM? That was in
got a good
Boston.
point.
That was good. Hey, they made
Who
good.
was the GM?
They made good ones.
All right,
they made good additions.
So we have 2 Indians and 2 and 1 Cub. I know we have our feelings about the Cubs, but why 6, 7 games? Why? Do we not see like a team just breaking free?
I mean, as much as Cleveland just so far has dominated the postseason. They have 1 postseason loss. So, I mean, I could see them coming in and getting off to a quick start. But the Cubs, if there's one thing they're known for battling back in those games. And I think it's just going to go back and forth. But in my opinion, I think it's going to be Andrew Miller who's the deciding factor.
Well,
I mean, you just got to look at he's 21 strikeouts in 11 1/3 inning. If as much as the Cubs, like I said, they're good for coming back in those games, if the Indians get a lead, Andrew Miller's going to shut them down.
One thing to keep in mind though is the Indians have been off for almost a little bit, almost a week now, because they've had that, they've been so successful in the postseason. Same thing happened to the Detroit Tigers back in 2012. when they went through and they had over a week break, and we saw in 2012 how well that worked out. But just throwing in another championship.
Yeah, Kluber's well rested. It's going to be interesting to see him go against Lester tonight. Lester does not throw the ball back to first ever. The Cleveland Indians they were number 1, 134 stolen bases this year, first in the MLB. They're going to have long leads tonight, but they do have David Ross behind the plate for Chicago. Ross is not afraid to throw that ball back to first and try to pick him off, but Cleveland's too fast,
It's going to be an interesting cat and mouse.
It's a very good pitching matchup, game 1.
Yeah, and just breaking down the entire World Series, even if you look at the coaching, Rob, you mentioned Terry Francona. It was Mike, you mentioned Terry Francona. There's also Joe Madden on the other side, who also has that postseason experience. He's been to a World Series. He lost it, though. But he has that experience, and this Cubs team, I don't know, they just seem like a team of destiny. But one city's going to be happy for the first time in a long time.
See, I mean, I agree with the destiny. I think they're both teams of destiny. I mean, you look at the thing I have for Cleveland, it's just their resilience. They come to play every night. They've battled so much this season with injuries. They lost Carrasco before coming into the playoffs. So I just feel like the momentum's in their favor.
The one thing though is, you talk about Andrew Miller, and I agree, he's been just an absolute beast. But you put enough on that bullpen, and it's bound to wear. I mean, it's kind of it's like a rubber band. You keep pulling. How far are you going to stretch them before that band snaps? And that's the question I have, especially with the Cubs offense, who's so strong, such a potent.
They have turned it around recently, especially in the ending of that LA series. Rizzo started hitting finally, and so did Addison Russell. But the Cubs pitching is what has really had me bouncing back and forth. Arrieta's been very disappointing, 4.91 ERA this postseason. Kyle Hendricks, in his last 3 starts in the postseason, also 4.90 ERA. And then John Lackey, 6.75 ERA. That's the thing that I think is really holding me back from picking the Cubs. I love the Cubs in the field. Fantastic. Rizzo, Russell, Bryant.
Hayward.
But Hayward's bad. He's hitting 0.71 right now. But his fielding is phenomenal. That's why Joe Maddon's been going with him, except for tonight.
I mean, the Indians have good fielding. You look at that combination up the middle, and Kipnis, he's a veteran, but he can still move out there. And then you have on the opposite side with Lindor, you have that youth. I mean, they've been playing pretty well defensively as well.
It's funny that you bring up Kipnis. Him and Napoli and Davis are the only guys actually that have, if it's going to be someone that gets to Lester, it's going to be one of those guys. Napoli has only 4 ABs. 2 of them are home runs against Leicester. You know, him and Davis has 40 ABs, and he's batting around 350 against Leicester. So it's going to be exciting to see what those guys do.
It's going to be very exciting. I do think this is going to be a 6-7 game series. So it's going to be interesting to see which city is going to be very happy come November. Well, I want to thank you all for joining me today, and I want to thank all the crew and the reporters we had that helped out tonight. And I would like to thank you for tuning in. Please join us again next week as we will take a closer look at how the World Series is playing out and if our predictions will hold up. Next week, we will also be looking at next week is also the final week for regular season play in our Pioneer Sports, so we'll see how they will stack up in the River States Conference Tournament. Also, it's basketball season, so we'll have a preview of both the men and women's teams. So join me next week at the same Pioneer time, same Pioneer place, and of course, the same Pioneer Sideline.